I'm Joseph Newman. Now what I'm going to do is bring you up again about 2012. It's interesting that this same guy, he points out that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, all have been showing signs that we've never seen before. Jupiter now has two big red spots on it. Jupiter does. There's lightning bolts and stuff happening roughly to Saturn that they've never even seen before, and storms taking place. All of those three planets are showing something, and the reason is very simple. As you come away from a magnetic field, the strength of the field falls off inversely, which means very fast. Now, so these planets are on the outer periphery of the sun's magnetic field as it engrosses with our galaxy's magnetic field. So as we're going down toward the equator, those planets already are clearly receiving induction into them that's causing them to act in a way. There's a clear warning to what's going to happen to the Earth in 2012. We're way inward toward the magnetic field of the sun. The Earth is. That's why we feel it's to some degree, but the planets on the outer periphery, like Jupiter, which is massive, Saturn and Neptune, are already receiving stuff that they had never seen before coming from these other planets. It's a warning to the world. Now with that, it should exemplify what I'm going to show you on the technology is so important. I'm going to show you something that the scientific world says is impossible. These are digital readout meters. It's taken the place really of the oscilloscope for engineers. Every engineer around the world carries these kind of meters now. You can buy them from Radio Shop, Home Depot, a lot of places, Lowe's, and they're as cheap as $30. When they first came out, they were $300 and $400. Now you can get them for $30. Now what they believe, see, this does all the calculations for an engineer. To my dismay in the 80s, I found most physicists can't even read an oscilloscope. I went to universities and people trying to test this invention, business people carrying me there to look at an oscilloscope, and then the physicists turn to one another and say, you know how to operate it? And the guys say, no. You know how to operate it? No. You know how to operate it? Let's go get so-and-so. He's an electrical engineer and he's studying and he knows how to do it. We'll go get him. And I've had that happen in several places, and both times I found it, I walked away from the business people. I said, I ain't wasting my time with idiots. You tell me to come here and talk with people, and a physicist who teaches about oscilloscope can't even read an oscilloscope? It should put me in a rage. Now this is something I've been told by engineers. Joe, you get a digital readout meter to run negative when you hook it to your motor, and everybody in the world will believe you. Now I'm going to do this today on a 400-pound motor I just finished up. Brought it down from 7,500 pounds with all those three new scientific principles that I told y'all I could easily do. I've just built it. I'm going to show it to you. But first I'm going to show you the conventional motor. This is a motor that you can buy from Granger. This little motor right here. And it's hooked to the positive side with this red wire. And the negative side of this meter, I'm going to hook to the negative side. Now I'll turn this over to amps. And what I want you to notice is that this will be positive, but you won't see a positive sign. Because every engineer knows if he doesn't see a negative sign, he's got the meter hooked up right. Now, the manufacturer knows that the only way you can get a negative sign if you're hooking it up to a load is to hook this meter up backwards. They give a negative sign if the instrument is hooked up backwards. And what they're saying to the engineer is, hey, stupid, you got it hooked up backwards. Now you'll notice this is the negative side going to the negative side of this battery. And when I hook it to it, it's going to do exactly. Now see, that's running. And that's showing like 4 amps or something. You don't see any positive sign. Now I'll show you something. If I turn it around and hook it up backwards, which I'll do, I'm going to hook the negative side now to the positive side of the battery. I'm going to hook the positive side to the negative side of the battery. Watch the negative sign come up, and they're saying, hey, stupid, you got it hooked up backwards. Now it's showing you negative 4 amps. Can you see the negative sign? and saying, hey, stupid, you got it hooked up backwards. That's what I want y'all to understand. I challenge anybody in the world to take one of these meters, hook it to a conventional motor, and make this meter run backwards when you got the meter hooked up correctly. Because I'm going to do it with this 400-pound motor. Now I want to show y'all something again. Now what I'd like to do is just take this motor down. I'll put this down. I want you to concentrate on this motor. I'm going to show you a little tiny motor. Now this is a warning that they give you, Rayovac gives you on its batteries. Warning, do not install backwards, charge, or put in fire. May explode or leak. That's on every one of these batteries as a warning. Now you're going to see we're charging these batteries right here. And you're going to see this meter run negative when we hook it up. And I want you to think about one other thing. I want to show you a little tiny motor. They tell you a toy is a high drain device, is what Energizer says on their batteries. A toy is a high drain device. Well, here is a toy. That's a toy motor. You can see how small that is relative to my hand. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay, now what's the chances are then that we're going to take and run a 400-pound motor off of these transistor batteries that are in series, and when we do that, the current is equivalent to one battery. One battery. You multiply the voltage capacity. Why? Because I've always said this motor runs off of voltage, it doesn't run off of current, and it doesn't run off of wattage. And the proof of it is you're going to see this meter run negative when I hook it to this battery pack and run this motor. It'll be running negative, and it'll be hooked up properly. And to prove that, I'll take these batteries and just turn them up. This is the negative side of the battery. If you can focus on that, it's got like a hexagonal design that you can pop another battery in that's totally round. That's the positive side. This is the negative side of the battery. The other side is the positive side. As I flick it over, you can see this is round. That's the positive side of the battery. I'm going to put this side of this motor to this side of this battery pack. We got this to the positive side. You know this is the negative side. Now I'll hook this to this side so it'll go all the way through that motor. And as it comes out the other side, it goes to the positive side of the battery, just like you would expect it to. This is the negative wire. It should go to the negative side of this battery pack, which is over here. I'm going to step this voltage up kind of slow so it doesn't take off so fast. And you can see it going already negative, but I'm going to get it on up to speed. Now this thing always samples, when it's sampling 3 to 5 times a second, it'll always sample on the most biggest spike that it sees of current. And it analyzes it for the engineer and gives them an answer. Now this is going negative constantly. And you can see this negative time is with every time you hear that click, 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 click. That's that back spike that the people saw on the oscilloscope, and it's clearly showing you this is charging these batteries that are not supposed to be chargeable. And it'll make these batteries get as hot as a firecracker because it's trying to charge them. And I had them blow up with Dr. Roger Hastings and Ralph Hartwell, who was with WBL TV in New Orleans, and a big coliseum in Washington, D.C. back in the 80s, 86, when we gave a demonstration in Washington, D.C. And they went and got 9-volt batteries instead of the 6-volt dry cell batteries we had. And I told them it would blow up. They hooked it up, got about 600 volts of them, of 9-volt batteries, hooked it up. And I was outside working on something, and they come running past me, hollering, "It's going nuclear, it's going nuclear, no, going nuclear," and run on past me. And the whole place had white smoke pouring out of it. I just went in there and turned it off, and then told them, had to scream at them. They was way down from me to come back, disconnect these, and hook up the 6-volt batteries. And that's how we gave the demonstration. Now, what I want to show y'all is this. This is a motor that's using my technology. Now, Roger Hastings, who was the senior physicist with Sperry Univac, went into business with the director of Mobile Oil, bought up a little mom and pop place, started making trolling motors more efficient by using my technology. And they were making over $100 million a year. But it was only on a limited basis. Now this motor, if you hook it to one of these meters, this thing draws 50 amps under load. Turning a little trolling motor, 50 amps to a 12-volt battery. That's a lot of wattage. Now what you see here, I'm running a 400-pound motor, and it's going negative. Now I didn't try to sue them and raise a lot of cane, because I knew when I mastered this, I'd leave all these people behind. And I have, the power brokers of the world. I'm showing every engineer, every student, go to your professor, challenge him. Tell him that Joseph Newman has a challenge to him that shows that he's a dishonest and he's a liar, that he hadn't got behind this like 40 other scientists have, using the oscilloscope, the most accurate measuring device in the world, back in the 80s. It's all up on the internet. That is verified by the news media, showing they did this. The oscilloscope, which is the most accurate measuring device of the world. They didn't come and run and get behind these people. They owe these people an apology, and the world an apology, and I still say the same thing. I know what's going to happen in 2012. I have a good friend of mine that I've warned about this in a very careful way, that's been with me since the 60s. He had the Amco distributorship in Mobile, Alabama. In 1968, he was running a full-page ad every week for the Amco transmission distributorship. He got me a 2-page ad in the Mobile paper at his prices, and that was me showing the sun, the galaxy, and etc., and explaining all this about, not about 2012, but how pertinent all this was. Now he's already taken precaution to get ready for 2012 because he knows that I'm right. And just the other day, I was talking with him. He said, "Joe, I hope like the Dickens she was wrong." I said, "Lindsay, I wish I was wrong." I said, "But it'd be totally evil and wrong for me not to say what I know is true. And I can tell you this, I think the chances of me being wrong is like 1 in a million or 1 in 100 million. I know this is going to occur. And it would be criminal for me not to tell the world this. I did all this before I ever built this machine. I mastered all this a long time ago. And the world didn't listen. Now, great scientists like Dr. Smith, who was chief of space and environment branch at Huntsville, Alabama, did. That's the magnitude of this. Now, McCain saying he wants to give $300 million as a gimmick, that he wants to try to get something to replace oil on some jump battery, which is just garbage. And the other guy running for president, he gets some lip service. I'm going to let Jim say something about that. Jim?
Arthur Schopenhauer, who was a 19th century German philosopher, said this. He said, "All truth passes through 3 stages. The first stage, it's ridiculed. The second stage, it's violently opposed. And the third stage, it's accepted as self-evident." Joseph's machine is now at the 3rd stage. It is self-evident. What he's described to you here may be a little confusing, but that little symbol, that negative symbol, means this motor. It's really not a motor, and it's really not a generator in the conventional sense of things. It's an energy-producing machine. It's putting energy back into the batteries as it's creating mechanical energy. That should be like a lightning bolt between the feet of scientists, particularly when they see this negative symbol coming up on the outro. It's putting energy back into the batteries. It's not taking energy out of the batteries. Totally impossible by current scientific understanding. That's why that little negative symbol is so important. It's popping up every I'd say 4th or 5th sample is coming up, or maybe every 2nd sample. It's constantly putting energy back into these little 9-volt batteries. That should be like a hammer right on top of their head. This is extraordinary. And I know it doesn't mean much to most of us, but it should mean a lot to scientists. That little symbol should be just like a lightning bolt for them. Like when Franklin was flying his kite and he got struck by lightning. That should be the same thing happening to them when they see that symbol. It's that important.
Okay, go ahead and sum that up.
I'm going to read you one other thing here. This is from Barack Obama in regards to what John McCain was saying about $300 million for a new type of battery that'll be 33% more efficient than the best battery we have today. Obama says, I commend him for his desire to accelerate the research for battery that can power cars of the future. I've been talking about this myself for the last few years, but I don't think a $300 million prize is enough. When John F. Kennedy decided that we were going to put a man on the moon, he didn't put a bounty out for some rocket scientist to win. He put the full resources of the United States government behind the project and called on the ingenuity and innovation of the American people. That's the kind of effort we need to achieve independence right now, energy independence, and nothing less will do. And that's what Joseph has done. It's right here. It's ready for production. Why don't we put the full resources of the federal government behind it? Why don't we break the back of big oil? We'll need this. We'll need it desperately as things get worse, and they're going to get worse. There's going to be earth changes happening as we go into this magnetic reversal that will happen. We're going to have something like this. Our power grids are going to come down. That's the first thing that's going to be affected by this magnetic energy that's going to be exerted from our sun. We need this machine desperately. What is the matter with our politicians? Why don't they get behind this?
This thing is ready for production. Now, I'm running this off of 9-volt transistor batteries, and I bet you these things are getting hot. Yeah, they're not real hot yet, but they're good and warm. They'll get so hot you can't hardly even touch them. And I know what will happen to them. They'll eventually get overloaded from charging them. But just like the manufacturer told you, though, that this little motor is a high drain device on these batteries. These batteries in series, like I have them, is the current of one of these batteries. That 400-pound motor, if it was drawing current from it, it would pull it down back like that in a second. It would pull that whole battery, that little battery pack down. That rotary there weighs over 200 pounds. And it's clicking along. And you can see that the thing is hitting negative, 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 negative. And a second is 1, 2, 3. That's a second. 1, 2, 3. And that's going faster than every second. Almost 2 times a second. The magnitude of this is so simple. Any engineer, student, go to your professor. Go to the news media people. Max Planck gave you a compliment. An advancement of new technology is not done by the old, they die away. It's you, the young people, who grow up with it, that bring it forward. Look at what I'm showing you. Take this meter. You can buy it for 30 bucks. Take it to your professor. Go down to the engineers at your local TV station saying, this is my future. I can show you on Google, I can show you a man running a 400-pound machine, and it's running negative on this machine. And I want you to challenge him. He wants to challenge you to show that y'all are liars, cowards, and he has disgust for you. Now, if you're any kind of honest person and you care about the oil, you care about the pollution of the earth, and you would like to change it, if you have any kind of a conscience, then do what this man says. If you cannot make this meter run negative on a conventional motor, then you the other engineers out there and other professors should be screaming, same as those 40 scientists who put their reputation on the line in the 80s when they looked at the oscilloscope screaming that you should be behind this. I've done it all now. The power brokers couldn't master this. God's given me 3 scientific principles that allowed me that from that big machine down to this. I can turn this machine up to 10,000 revolutions a minute. You know what kind of power it'll have? It'll run a 10 kW like it's peanuts. Now, what I'm going to do on a production basis, I'm going to take these batteries totally out of the system. There won't be no batteries in the system. There won't be any wires in the system. And this is proving it to you. It's putting back more power than what you put into it. It's clearly proving it to you. And I've mastered it. I've taken lightning and turned it into speed and torque. And I got control of this current now. I can make it do what I want it to do. And the power brokers of the world, with all them billions of dollars behind them, the 180 major companies of the world that bought my book in 1984, and then get on radio shows and said, yeah, we know your invention works, we built it. Backspike is too great, blows up everything, you'll never get it up to speed. Look at the speed already, and I ain't got but just that little bit of battery pack, voltage on it. It's the voltage I'm interested in. I'm ready to start taking orders from people now. If you want to help bring this technology forward, I started a barbell company in 1962 in Houston, Texas with Mike Dukes and Doug Klein, the linebackers for the Houston Oilers. They were #1 in the football league. Started a plastic curved barbell company in September, and I made delivery before Christmas. All the business people in Houston said I couldn't do it. I can do the same thing on this machine on production basis. I've got all the bugs out of it. I've mastered everything. If you, the people, want to help bring this forward, call Joe Noffe, area code 205-835-9022. Get behind this technology. Start pushing it forward, but you can give him an order. If any kind of an energy source that'll replace oil, they're giving it on windmills, they're giving it on solar panels. They darn sure should give it on this. And you, the people, need to get behind this so we can get it out to you very, very, very quickly. It'll change the earth, just like this machine right here. It doesn't do anything for the world that what I said it would do. This one will. I can run boats, I can run ships, I can run planes, I can do anything I want to now. I can run any device in the world. It's done. I don't know what it's going to take for y'all to get behind it. If you wait too long and the world falls apart, just like today, oil prices hit the highest record they've ever hit. $146 a barrel. They said it's out of fear. Fear is something that makes the economies fall, makes the world fall. This technology will give the world hope and bring the economy up. Everything from fertilizer to steel is tied to the cost of energy. This will make oil obsolete as an energy source. You, the people, must stand up for this. Now, God made me a promise, March the 28th, 93, that you, the people, would get behind this, and it'll be y'all's money that would bring it forward. And God said this is His technology, and it is, because He gave me 3 new scientific principles that allows me to show you this right here. And this is the Bible for engineers. This digital readout meter is the Bible for every engineer. And I've had engineers tell me, if you can make this meter run negative, every engineer and physicist in the world will have to believe you. Well, there it is. And with that, let that run and we'll end this. The world should get behind this. I've mastered all of this. Now with that, I'd like you to look at this and look at that, and we'll phase it out over the next minute.